Well, I think if you look at the problem with the economic meltdown, you can trace it right back to the federal government, because it was the federal government that demanded that banks and mortgage companies lower platinum level lending standards to new lows.
But the federal government had also deregulated them.
It was the federal government that pushed the subprime loans. It was the federal government that pushed the Community Reinvestment Act. It was Congressman Barney Frank and also Senator Chris Dodd that continued to push government-directed housing goals. They pushed the banks to meet these rules. And if banks failed to meet those rules, then the federal government said, we won't let you merge. We won't let you grow.
No, let me draw a distinction. I think virtually every American has a reason to be angry. I think virtually every American has a reason to be worried. I think the people who are protesting on Wall Street break into two groups. One is left-wing agitators who would be happy to show up next week on any other topic. And the other is sincere middle-class people who, frankly, are very close to the Tea Party people in actually caring. You can tell which group is which. The people who are decent, responsible citizens pick up after themselves. The people who are just out there as activists trash the place and walk off and are proud of having trashed it. So let's draw that distinction. The fix was put in by the federal government. And if you want to put people in jail, I want to second what Michelle said. You ought to start with Barney Frank and Chris Dodd, and let's look at the politicians who created the environment, the politicians who profited from the environment, and the politicians who put this country in trouble.
Clearly not saying they should go to jail.
Well, in Chris Dodd's case, go back and look at the countryside deals. In Barney Frank's case, go back and look at the lobbyists he was close to at Freddie Mac. All I'm saying is, so if you were everybody in the media who wants to go after the business community ought to start by going after the politicians who have been at the heart of the sickness which is weakening this country, and ought to start with Bernanke, who has still not been exposed for the hundreds of billions of dollars.
And as far as you're concerned, there's no institution, no financial institution that's too big to fail.
Well, no, you don't want to bail out anybody. The idea of trying to bail out an institution to protect the shareholders or to protect certain interest group, that's a terrible idea. And that shouldn't happen. You do want to make sure that we don't lose the country, and we don't lose our financial system, and we don't lose American jobs, and that all the banks don't go under. So you have to take action very carefully to make sure that you preserve our currency and preserve our financial system. But bailouts of individual institutions, no one has interest in that, I don't think.
When you take the 999 plan and you turn it upside down, I think the devil's in the details.
All right.
Mr. Kaine, in the past you've been rather critical of any of us who would want to audit the Fed. You said you've used pretty strong terms that we were ignorant and that we didn't know what we were doing, and therefore there was no need for a Fed audit anyway, because if you had one, you're not going to find out everything because everybody knows everything about the Fed. But now that we have found and we've gotten an audit, we have found out an awful lot on how special businesses get, bailed out. Wall Street, the banks, and special companies, foreign governments. And you said that you advised those of us who were concerned, and you belittled. You say, call up the Federal Reserve and just ask them to get the PR person. So do you still stick by this, that this is frivolous, or do you think it's very important? 64% of the American people want a full audit of the Fed on a regular basis.
Mr. Kaine.
First of all, you have misquoted me. I did not call you or any of your people ignorant. I don't know where that came from.
I'll get it for you.
All right? Now, so you got to be careful of the stuff that you get off the internet, because that's just not something that I have said. Secondly, when I served on the board of the Federal Reserve in the 1990s, we didn't do any of the things that this Federal Reserve is doing. I don't agree with the actions of this Federal Reserve. I don't agree with the actions that have been undertaken by Ben Bernanke. We didn't have a $14 trillion national debt to prop up with some of the actions that they're taking. And I have also said, to be precise, I do not object to the Federal Reserve being audited. I simply said, if someone wants to initiate that action, go right ahead. It doesn't bother me. So I've been misrepresented in that regard. I don't have a problem with the Federal Reserve being audited. It's simply not my top priority. My top priority is 999. Jobs, jobs, jobs.
My question is, since I think Herman Cain is giving naively a tool in his 999 plan of giving Washington a huge new tax opportunity to get money through a sales tax, can we trust you that with your lack of experience that you won't continually give Washington the ability to take freedom away from freedom-loving people here in the Live Free or Die state?
There are three deterrents to this nightmare scenario you described in terms of how bad things are going to be because we're trying to fix the real problem. The first deterrent is that I'm going to ask the United States Congress to include a 2/3 majority vote before they can raise the 999 tax. The second deterrent is the fact that because it is visible, simple, and transparent, the American people are going to be the ones to hold Congress's feet to the fire. The third deterrent is that I will be president and I won't sign anything that raises the 999.
Yeah. President forever.
With that, we take a break and come back for our final segment. Stay with us.
The way Alan Greenspan oversaw the Fed and the way he coordinated with all of the Federal Reserve banks, I think that it worked fine back in the early 1990s. Now, on that same point, I have already identified two candidates, which I cannot give their names, to replace Mr. Bernanke in anticipation of having that responsibility.
Okay, Congressman Paul.
Spoken like a true insider. No, Alan Greenspan was a disaster.
Congresswoman Bachmann.
I'd like to add to that because the Dodd-Frank bill is the Jobs and Housing Destruction Act. And by the way, that's why we see the new $5 debit card fee that people are paying every month that they're upset about because of Dodd-Frank. And that was insider dealing because Senator Durbin had former staffers that came to lobby him on behalf of retailers. This is dirty dealing. As President of the United States, I would end all of these payoffs to political donors by our legislators. That's wrong. That's got to end.
Quoting you. Don't blame Wall Street. Don't blame the big banks. If you don't have a job and you're not rich, blame yourself. So are you telling the 14 million unemployed Americans that it's their fault that they don't have a job?
No, the question was, that response was directed at the people that are protesting on Wall Street, not that 14 million people who are out of work for no reason of their own other than that the economy is not growing, not the millions of people that are underemployed. That statement was not directed at them. It was specifically directed at the people who are protesting on Wall Street, and I also said that they have basically targeted the...
Hey guys, I just watched the Republican debate, so this is just my initial impressions. I didn't write anything down, I have no notes, so it's just all up here. And I have to have a disclaimer, I didn't see the first debate earlier in the night. I guess the candidates really low in the polls, they got their own special debate. Kind of like, I guess, if you're at Christmas dinner, I don't know, your family or Thanksgiving dinner, you have a lot of people over, and you have the kiddies table. Well, like Miss Lindsey Graham, he went to the kiddies table debate. You gotta have no self-respect. But I guess he's the gay guy. Well, he is out of the closet, right? I'm not sure, but anyway, he was at the kiddies table debate. I didn't see that. I saw this debate, and the first thing that struck me, I usually don't watch mainstream media, but it was like, shit. I mean, we joke about how they cut for Israel. That was it. I mean, there's Israel that, Israel this, Israel this. I love Israel. We got to do what Israel says. It's like they never mention any of our other allies, like Great Britain, France, Germany, Japan, Australia. Fuck them, Israel. And it was so interesting. The only one, I know Donald Trump loves Israel, but he said, you know, instead of getting all worried about Iran, there's another country that has a nuclear weapon. Remember North Korea? Hello, North Korea. In fact, they fucking threaten us every week like they're going to destroy us. Why aren't you guys talking about them? And you could just see like Jeb Bush saying, you stupid goy, the South Koreans aren't funding our campaigns. So that's how it is. And there's this woman that's running, I guess I need a vagina up there. Her name is Carly something. And she had her skill in life. She was a secretary, then she became a CEO of a high-tech company in Silicon Valley, while Apple, Google are making like billions, trillions of dollars. She took a company and ran it into the ground. And she could do that to America. So I guess that's her platform. And as near as I can figure, she wants to have a war with Russia. And if she's elected, the first thing she's going to do is call Netanyahu and say that she'll suck his cock and then declare war on Iran or something like that. So that's her choice. Oh, and then there's Ben Carson. And I like Ben Carson. And he just reminds me, when he talks, it's just like, you better get busy living or get busy dying. That's our decision, Andy. It's literally like that. It'd be like having Morgan fucking Freeman in the Shankshaw Redemption as president. I wouldn't mind that, because whenever he talks, I just swear I hear just music. You know, just, yeah, that, I hear that. And it's just so precious because all the other candidates are always busy talking over each other and everything like that. When Ben Carson speaks, because he's like an African American, you gotta be very respectful so you're not racist. Everyone's just like, and then he says this thing, and he's very calm, he's very slow, you know, he talks like this. And I like that because no one dare fucking interrupts him. So that's our candidate. Other than that, I like Trump. The thing I don't understand about Trump, and it still amazes me, is like, he just doesn't give a fuck. He reminds me in some ways, that's kind of how I am. I just don't give a fuck. But I never thought a politician would ever go in a debate and just not give a fuck. And that's just what he's doing. He just says things. He was insulting Rand Paul and his looks. He's just like, oh, fuck you. What do I care? And, you know, I like it. This guy's entertainment value. You know, he may back down. I'm not saying my hopes on Trump, but he's funny. So go Trump. It was somewhat entertaining. Maybe the next one will be better. Talk to you guys later.